waggish smile, his theatrical air of mystery, his Van Dyke beard, and his conspiratorial costume, broad-brimmed hat, flowing cape, and sparkling emerald tie-pin. For the world's most important central banker to have a nervous breakdown as the global economy sank yet deeper into the second year of an unprecedented depression was truly unfortunate. Production in almost every country had collapsed. In the two worst hit, the United States and Germany, it had fallen 40%. Factories throughout the industrial world, from the car plants of Detroit to the steel mills of the Ruhr, from the silk mills of Lyon to the shipyards of Tyneside, were shuttered or working at a fraction of capacity. Faced with shrinking demand, businesses had cut prices by 25% in the 2 years since the slump had begun. Armies of the unemployed now haunted the towns and cities of the industrial nations. In the United States, the world's largest economy, some 8 million men and women, close to 15% of the labor force, were out of work. Another 2.5 million men in Britain and 5 million in Germany, the second and third largest economies in the world, had joined the unemployment lines. Of the four great economic powers, only France seemed to have been somewhat protected from the ravages of the storms sweeping the world, but even it was now beginning to slide downward. Gangs of unemployed youths and men with nothing to do loitered aimlessly at street corners, in parks, in bars and cafes. As more and more people were thrown out of work and unable to afford a decent place to live, grim, jerry-built shanty towns constructed of packing cases, scrap iron, grease drums, tarpaulins, and even of motor car bodies had sprung up in cities such as New York and Chicago. There was even an encampment in Central Park. Similar makeshift colonies littered the fringes of Berlin, Hamburg, and Dresden. In the United States, millions of vagrants, escaping the blight of inner-city poverty, had taken to the road in search of some kind, any kind of work. Unemployment led to violence and revolt. In the United States, food riots broke out in Arkansas, Oklahoma, and across the central and southwestern states. In Britain, the miners went out on strike, followed by the cotton mill workers and the weavers. Berlin was almost in a state of civil war. During the elections of September 1930, the Nazis, playing on the fears and frustration of the unemployed and blaming everyone else, the Allies, the Communists, and the Jews, for the misery of Germany, gained close to 6.5 million votes, increasing their seats in the Reichstag from 12 to 107, and making them the second largest parliamentary party after the Social Democrats. Meanwhile, in the streets, Nazi and communist gangs clashed daily. There were coups in Portugal, Brazil, Argentina, Peru, and Spain. The biggest economic threat now came from the collapsing banking system. In December 1930, the Bank of the United States, which despite its name was a private bank with no official status, went down in the largest single bank failure in U.S. history, leaving frozen some $200 million in depositors' funds. In May 1931, the biggest bank in Austria, the Kreditanstalt, owned by the Rothschilds no less, with $250 million in assets, closed its doors. On June 20th, President Herbert Hoover announced a 1-year moratorium on all payments of debts and reparations stemming from the war. In July, the Donaubank, the third largest in Germany, foundered, precipitating a run on the whole German banking system and a tidal wave of capital out of the country. The Chancellor, Heinrich Brüning, declared a bank holiday, restricted how much German citizens could withdraw from their bank accounts, and suspended payments on Germany's short-term foreign debt. Later that month, the crisis spread to the City of London, which, having lent heavily to Germany, found these claims now frozen. Suddenly faced with the previously unthinkable prospect that Britain itself might be unable to meet its obligations, investors around the world started withdrawing funds from London. The Bank of England was forced to borrow $60 million from banks in France and the United States, including the Banque de France and the New York Federal Reserve Bank, to prevent its gold reserves from being completely depleted. As the unemployment lines lengthened, banks shut their doors, farm prices collapsed, and factories closed, there was